Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. Believe it or not, we've wrapped up an insanely fun regular season, and we are about to embark upon a grand new adventure, experiment, the 12-team college football playoff. We've also made it to December, and Carla, I hope you enjoy the Christmas gift, the early Christmas gift I got for you and all of my Penn State friends.
Yeah, I'm definitely. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
Oh, yes, we
it's
will.
not just a Christmas gift. It's a birthday gift. So I very much appreciate it. And this might be best birthday ever. And I'm sorry it has to come at your expense. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Ryan
Yes.
birthday right there.
I suppose we have to talk about last weekend. AJ, we will begin with you. What were your observations and notations from the final weekend of the regular season?
It was feisty.
It was.
Everybody was all
yes.
jazzed up. Everybody was all fired up off of cranberry sauce, and everybody felt like fighting.
Yeah,
right. It wasn't Thanksgiving; it was Handsgiving, and this is why we get excited for Rivalry Week, because we joke about like, oh, you throw out the record books, and there were always games like Bedlam where it's like, haha, that's very funny. Oklahoma wins, right? But what did we tell you? We told you Georgia Tech and Georgia was going to be close.
Yes.
We told you it was going to be
what a
spicy, and there it was.
Mm-hmm.
We told you South Carolina Clemson had the possibility of some Shane Beamerin at the end of the game.
Yes, we did.
Correct. So this is why we tell you.
We also called Syracuse.
We also did call Syracuse.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Because Miami going to the Northeast for their last game of the season does not end well for them.
Weird things happen in the Carrier Dome every single season.
It does.
It's like Oregon going to Arizona schools. It's just like there's for some reason it doesn't work, right? I truly don't understand what happened. Georgia Tech was running the ball so well against Georgia, and then in the last 3 minutes of the game, and then all through the various overtimes that they had, they just didn't. They just stopped running the ball. And it didn't make sense to me. And I thought back to the fumble, which should have been called targeting, by the way, in my opinion. They didn't review it. It was very clearly a launch. There was crown of the helmet, all that sort of fun stuff. But you could see Haynes King after that play. He was either shell-shocked that he fumbled and Georgia recovered, or his bell was completely wrong. And I think it was the latter. And the coaches said, he said he could keep going. He said he could keep playing. He got through whatever the concussion protocol stuff was. But I think they were like, yeah, we can't have him going out there running head first into large humans. So we're going to have him throw the ball. I think that's really what caused the loss. Haynes King is okay at passing. He is a much better runner. As I joked in our text thread, Haynes King, Service Academy quarterback extraordinaire.
Totally. Should have been.
He was almost like, I need all of you. Keenan Reynolds, lend me your powers the entire time, right? So I think Georgia escaped. I would also like to call for a new rule change. You get 2 timeouts in overtime. Use them wisely. Hey, Kirby, stop calling timeout on every single individual overtime possession. I hate you so much for that. He made it last so much longer.
I was so tired. And I just wanted to see the end of the game. And he kept calling timeouts. I'm like, damn it, Kirby, knock it off.
And also, the thing that also made it last longer is that after every overtime period, they switch sides of the field.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have after first overtime, we're walking 100 yards to the other side of the field. After that overtime, walking 100 yards back. And it was just so many steps, really. Yeah. Also, the Big 12 champion, multiverse. ends with the simplest outcome. Actually, it was the very first one in our whole list, which was all 4 of the teams who were the best in the conference all won, which means you get Arizona State and Iowa State in Arlington, which we'll talk about later on. So
Yes,
that all of the 250,000 possibilities that were there, it actually just came down to the one that was like, yeah, all 4 of these teams are good and they'll win. Right. BYU tried their hardest to not have that happen.
Right.
And got feisty with Houston for some reason. Like they were throwing hands in Provo, like for no reason. Sure. Good for you, BYU. I hope your dirty sodas taste great. But finally, because I am a true degenerate, I passed the Hawaii test, as I do. And I was rewarded with the bright future of freshman quarterback Micah Alejado, who was unreal. He is 180 pounds soaking wet. He is a tiny, tiny little man. He is 5'8", 180 pounds. He looks like a child in his roster picture, and he was throwing ropes the entire game. He threw for 469 yards.
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
5 TDs and broke his own head coach's first start completions record, where he threw for, I think the old record was 31, and I think he had 37 or something like that.
Nice.
He threw the ball 55 times. Like he was just dropping dimes on New Mexico's defense. It was incredible to watch. He looked like he was having a blast. The receivers were making catches for him. It was good. It felt nice to get to see my beloved Rainbow Warriors get themselves a nice W to end the season. They ended 5-7, not getting a bowl. They had 3 different games this season that were decided by, I think it was 6 points or less. And 2 of them were 3 points or less, including that UNLV game. They had an opportunity to be bowl eligible multiple times this season. They also had an opportunity to be 8-4 and not 5-7. So, future's looking bright, feeling really good about it. Carla, what did you see? Did you see anything fun?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to send a shout out to my dad. I don't know if he's listening this week or not, but hi, Dad. We made it all the way through the end of 8 overtimes.
Woo!
Last 2 in the house that made it together. So that was actually really fun to stay up and watch that game with him. And your note about Kirby on calling timeout, it's really interesting. If you go back and rewatch, and I don't encourage you to watch all 8 overtimes again because it'll take you an hour and a half, but if you go back and you rewatch all 8 overtimes, it's only because he doesn't call timeout every overtime on the defensive side of the ball. And the times that he doesn't, Georgia Tech scores 6 or 2, depending on every single time. Georgia could not stop Georgia Tech unless they saw the lineup first. That's something to keep in mind heading into Atlanta. Anytime Kirby didn't call timeout, Georgia Tech scored.
This is only going to encourage him to call.
I know.
Timeout.
If they end up in
he'll
overtime,
only have the 3. He'll only have the 3.
That would be fine. I'm
Take Kirby's timeouts away and let the Bees get a W.
Totally good with
so that was intriguing. It was kind of a weird weekend for me because I was with my family. We were in an Airbnb. We do we call it Swanksmas. We get everybody together in a big house in Cincinnati, and so I was juggling family stuff and like a lot of the time on Saturday. So I'll be honest, I missed the entirety of the game because I was with my family doing things. But I was scoreboard watching for that. And I kept checking. And we were actually, ironically, we were at IKEA when that game ended. And nice. I looked at my husband as I saw that score, and I looked at him and I said, "You want to go play for a Big Ten title?" And he looked at me and went, "What?" Because he had not been scoreboard watching.
Yes.
And I had to tell him what had happened. So yeah, that was, and then by the time we got back to the house, Penn State was already up 4 scores at that point.
Did not take them long.
No, it didn't. And, they pounced quickly. So we had the game on. Kudos to our Airbnb host for actually having the Big Ten network. So that was nice. We watched the end of that game while we were getting dinner and things ready. But it was one of those things that I didn't pay close enough attention to what was going on with the game because it was already in hand. The other thing that I did see that was interesting, 2 things on Saturday night that we watched. So we started the evening watching Florida State, another team with a bright future. Hello, Gainesville.
Absolutely.
DJ Lagway looked real good Saturday night, at least in the first half that we saw, until I managed to wrestle control of the remote control from my husband so that we could watch Texas A&M. And we flipped over to that.
I want to see that. I want to see how that works. You guys.
He stepped away to go. He stepped away to go get another treat from the kitchen, and I just took it. It was pretty easy, actually.
It was guile. Okay.
It was. And so we flipped over to Texas A&M, and this is something that that I think is going to be a factor this weekend. Texas A&M looked tired. Mm-hmm. They looked real tired, and that was after what they go 4 overtimes against Auburn the week before. How tired is Georgia going to be this week? Yeah. I'm just filing that away. Texas was able to capitalize on a team that had an extensive game the week before, and they looked dominant in that game. Texas A&M never really looked like they were in it, and that was actually shocking to me, because we all thought that the Aggies had a chance to pull that one off at home. No, it wasn't even close. So, and Texas actually almost tried to give it back to them a couple of times with some stupid mistakes that they made in the second half. But yeah, that Texas team is looking real good heading into the Benzo Dome this weekend. So, yeah, just a wild weekend, grabbing what I could all the way through.
Okay.
And celebrating, backing our way into a Big Ten title game. I think I should be excited about this. I don't know.
You should be excited about this.
I still feel like the only thing that happens here is that this ends poorly for a number of reasons, but maybe that's just me being pessimistic and a Penn State fan for so many years. But
no, you should be excited. Absolutely, for sure. That is a great opportunity for Penn State, and hopefully James Franklin will make the most of it. I was in Columbus over the weekend. We had Thanksgiving here in the Pittsburgh area, and then I drove out on Friday. Kelly was working all weekend, so I just went out to spend some time with my folks and watched the game with them. On the way out, I listened to OU thump Ball State on the radio. I was able to stay up. I kept an eye on Nebraska, Iowa, which was glorious in its own Midwestern way. And then you guys, we've talked about Tech and Georgia and what an amazing game that was. And
have you looked at the box for that? Was that Nebraska, Iowa? Yes, that was the Nebraska, Iowa game.
How many first downs did Iowa actually get? It was like 5.
It was 5. Was it 5 total first downs? Kirk Ferentz went into his bag. He went all the way in. He was like, you know what? I've scored 325 points, and that's too many.
Far too much.
Shut it down. And that was it. They were like, we're scoring 13 points. And I'm sure like 2 of them were a safety somewhere along the line. And I don't even know how you would do that. It was like
I don't know.
A touchdown, a 2-pointer, a field goal, and a safety. I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. But the Iowa 13. Anyways, they went full Cro-Magnon on him. And awesome. Like, if you're a Nebraska fan, you've got Patrick Apartments as your quarterback, and here comes Iowa to just hit you with the literal the $5 bits of a broken chair, making a new trophy with your forehead. It is absurd watching Iowa just play Iowa football. And apparently, before the game, when the captains went to shake hands, Nebraska was like, "No, we're not shaking your hand." And the Iowa captain was like, "Oh, it's that time."
Okay.
And Matt Rule apparently walked through their warm up and was like trying to get in their heads, and they went, "All right, then." And then they played Iowa football and won.
Yeah.
And he said, "I hope they have a great time." You know, that's not the way we play the game. We play a classy game here. We can't beat them. Like at one point, one of his teammates came up. He's like, "Can you imagine KF doing that?" And he was like, "No, absolutely not." There is a certain level of like, yeah, these are like, they try to run like Cro-Magnon Big Ten classy football, and there's a reason why Kirk Ferentz is still there since 1999.
Yep.
So, crappy.
Anything happen?
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm happy to talk about the fun parts of the weekend.
I thought we were just talking about games that ended 13-10.
That's all. We'll get to the other one. There is another one. I did the good news from Saturday. Did want to mention, and I will talk more about this later, but CMU will move on in the D3 playoffs after beating Center College on Saturday, 25-15. I will give you a quick preview of that one later in the show. And then there was the other 13-10 game. I'm gonna break this down as briefly as possible. Brief may not be the best word to describe this, but there was a good, there was a bad, and there was a really freaking ugly. And to briefly go over the good, um, and note I say good but not great. Ohio State's defense, um, offensive numbers for Michigan: 235 total yards, 62 passing, 173 rushing. That's respectable to good. Again, not great but good. Um, Concerning that there were no sacks. Did get 3 tackles for a loss and 2 picks. But you got to look at those numbers and think, yeah, maybe that's a winning performance from the defense. The bad O-line depth and special teams. The special teams are obvious, and if you look at the 2 missed field goals under 40 yards, as good as Ryan Day has been with the portal. I'm a little baffled as to why the current field goal kicker, and I feel bad for the kid, but why he was the best option going into the season. And just as a side note, Michigan's kicker, who was added to the roster via the portal prior to this season, managed to hit a 54-yarder in the same wind that Ryan Day was complaining about after the game. The other bad, and this has to do with personnel too, it's O-line depth. I've mentioned this a little bit, but because of injuries, the offensive line had to be retooled twice because of injuries. Last time, 2 weeks ago. Carson Hinsman was the starter at center in 2023. He moved back to that position after Seth McLaughlin, and his season ended with an injury. He's the transfer from Alabama. So Hinsman was back in his old slot. Did not have a great afternoon, and that was the case for the offensive line across the board. With more depth, there won't be the same kind of drop off that you saw with the injuries to the O-line this season. And it was evident on Saturday. The coaches didn't do many favors. I will get to that in a second, but they were manhandled by Michigan's front seven all day long. The ugly, Ohio State's offensive game plan. I've seen the words malfeasance. I've seen inexcusable. You can apply whatever superlative you want. It is plain and simple. This is why Ohio State lost the game. The first half was a little frustrating until Ohio State gets the ball with 2 minutes left in the second quarter and puts together 75 yard minute 45 touchdown drive that include passes downfield. I felt great at halftime because of that drive. I'm thinking, okay, the coaching staffs have made really solid adjustments in game all season long. I can go back and point to several games where, including Indiana last weekend, where changes were made at or about halftime and things really turned around in the second half. I felt like that's what had happened. And then we came out in the second half and the passing game just disappeared. There was no accounting for the fact that Ohio State kept trying to run between the tackles and kept trying to do a power game, and it is running into a brick wall. It is not going anywhere. And if you want to keep running, they did this very well against Indiana, against another very good front seven last week. Their stretch runs, misdirection plays, that never materialized either. I like the word malfeasance. It certainly doesn't do anything to put your players in the best position to win. That was not done. Um, there are 3 NFL caliber receivers on that roster, and they were not used in the second half, very rarely. The offensive line that I mentioned, they desperately needed help from the coaches. They could not handle Michigan straight up, and they never got it. The adjustments that I was waiting for never showed up. In the moment, I wanted to clean house. I did just freaking fire everybody. As you think about it, that causes more problems than it solves. Because especially because this team is going in the playoff. We will talk about the rankings here in just a second. Um, so do you do that with an interim? Then who do you find as replacement? What happens to the guys who are committed to Ohio State because they're gonna because they like Ryan Day? What happens to current players? Is the exodus in the portal going to be bigger than usual? It opens the doors to a lot of other issues. And look, Ryan Day, he's an excellent recruiter. He's shown he knows how to work with the portal and NIL. He has an 8.868 winning percentage in his years as head coach, which I think is second best in the country since he took over that job full time. He's been in the playoff or a New Year's Six Bowl every year and played for a national title once. I've seen this before. I lived through the late 80s and 90s with John Cooper. And I could say, I don't know how he would handle the portal or NIL, but he was an amazing recruiter, put together unbelievable rosters, and had a mental block with the rival. This feels a lot like that. Firing Ryan Day right now is off the table. In fact, I think the only way that it would get considered by the university is if there's a really bad loss in the first round of the playoff. And maybe at that point the university has no other choice. But
I would say this is what's interesting is everything you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Does it sound familiar, Carla?
Mm-hmm.
It's James Franklin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Amazing recruiter. He's going to win you 10 games. And when it comes to like your biggest rival, he's going to turtle as hard as he can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's the thing that I've seen from him against Michigan. Mm-hmm. Michigan is in his head. And the play calling gets conservative. This is the difference. This is the actual difference between Urban, for all of his problematic off the field nonsense after he left, and Urban, the coach in the season, was, I am going to go out and not only are we going to go beat Michigan, we're going to flambe them. Now, was he also coaching against maybe not the best Michigan coaches? Yeah. Sure. Sharon Moore got him up.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Ryan Day didn't. The one thing, and Crappy, I guess I'll let you discuss the ugly that you were about to discuss.
Yeah, that was the coaching. The offensive game plan was the ugly. There was also post game ugly.
This was the part that got me. That was the first time that it looked like Ohio State actually cared about defending something.
Yeah.
Like when you're defending the O way harder than it looked like you defended the run during the game, I have a lot of questions.
I have said this. I'm sure I've said this on the show. I've said it in other contexts, many times. I don't have a lot of patience for Ohio State reacting to that. If you don't want the other guys to plant their field on your 50-yard line, win the damn game.
Win the game,
Yeah.
right? They're not planting the flag because they lost.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would also say that looking at this box score, I see 41 carries for 173 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And Davis Warren went 9 of 16 for 62 yards. You got beat by an option team.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's an option box score.
And it was, I will give the defense a pass in the fourth quarter for the last drive that got Michigan in position to kick the winning field goal because they were exhausted. So many 3 and outs, especially in the second half. Ohio State's offense could not hold the ball, and the defense was on the field all the time.
Yeah, I think there was a stat I saw on the screen that was like Michigan had run like 17 plays in the fourth quarter, and Ohio State had run 3 or something like that. Yeah, there was I see a 10-play drive that ended in a punt to start the third quarter. 7-play, 31 yards ended in a pick. Michigan gave it right back, and then they missed the field goal where they went 3 and out, and then tried to kick a field goal and missed. Then they picked off Michigan, three and out, and then Michigan does the field goal drive, and then with the game on the line, 4 plays, 1 yard.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that gets me about Ryan Day was a video that got captured after that whole fight thing that broke out.
Know which one you're going to say.
Where players are like finally like getting pulled off and like getting sent back, and Ryan Day goes, "What happened?" He was not involved. No. He was not in there. Now, I don't know if that's the normal like post-game coach has to go do this like post-game interview with this thing, that thing, and he's already been pulled away to go do all the post-game interview stuff. And they wanted to go talk to him after what they just saw on the field. But like he's not involved in that the fracas that happened. If I'm Ohio State, I need somebody to smack Ryan Day in the head when it's Michigan, when the Michigan game is happening. Because this was the other part about this is that before he seemed overly confident in the press conference. There was a little bit in the press conference where he was like, I'm really excited for these seniors. They haven't had a chance to win the gold pants. I'm just really excited for like he had almost penciled in the win because he's like, these guys suck. And Michigan, I think, took that and was like, they're penciling in the win already. Yeah. No, we're going to slog this game up, and we're going to go full Iowa on them and make them mentally beat us. And they can't do it. And that is the difference. And I think for Ohio State, this is actually crappy. I've asked this question of you the last few years. Now this time, okay, you've lost to Michigan. You're still going to go to the playoff. Let's pretend they make a run and they win a national title. You think anybody's going to be happy?
I'm right now. No, I'm not. I may feel differently, if I'm watching my team play for a national title, but it is definitely colored the experience. And it's difficult for me to get excited about what I should be excited about. And that is the big thing I am curious about for the first playoff game. Does he still have the team? I think we'll know if he does not. I don't know either way. Whether or not that's the case, I have no sense of it, but we'll find out.
Hey, let's talk about the playoffs.
We got new rankings.
This is the lovely part of when we record the show is the rankings come out right when we start recording, so we have to run around and go figure out who's who. I'm going to run down your top 12 here.
Okay.
We start with number 1 Oregon, who defeated Washington. Number 2, Texas, who beat Texas A&M. Number 3, Penn State, going to the Big Ten title game after whomping Maryland.
Yep.
Number 4, Notre Dame, who after that Northern Illinois loss, has gone on an absolute rampage across their schedule. Surprise! Remember we said like, oh hey, they don't play anybody, and how are they going to make the playoff? It's by going and playing a weak schedule and absolutely dominating it the way good team would.
Yeah.
Number 5, Georgia. Number 6, Ohio State. So Ohio State goes from 2 to 6. I'm very surprised they're still at 6. But I can also see that they took a rivalry game into question there.
Yeah.
Number 7, Tennessee. Number 8, SMU. Number 9, Indiana. Number 10, who by the way beat Purdue so bad they got Ryan Walters fired. It's the worst loss in Purdue history.
True.
So hung 66 on them. Good for you, Indiana. Number 10, Boise State. Number 11, Alabama. And number 12, the U, after losing in the Carrier Dome. Which means your actual playoff, if, by the way, Arizona State is number 15 and currently the highest ranked Big 12 team. So assuming they win, and Iowa State is number 16, right below them. Yep. So I'm guessing ranking wise, the winner of that game will be nudged up and the loser of some other games will be nudged down. There was some consternation about Alabama being ranked above Miami.
Carla, you had thoughts about that.
Go off.
I went back and looked because I was trying to remember like who did Miami, like who were Miami's losses. They're to decent 9-4 now Syracuse team and Georgia Tech, who just gave Georgia a run for their money, right? Like to me, those two losses are not bad. I mean, I realize that those two teams aren't ranked, but they're not bad losses against an Alabama team that has 3 losses. Like I don't know. I know we're splitting hairs at this point, and I get that, and it might not matter depending on how things play out this weekend, but I don't know. I give the edge to Miami there. Like, if you want to get in the playoff, you got to win your schedule, right? And
I mean,
like,
I think the big one there is Miami lost 2 games, Alabama lost 3, and one of them is to a very bad Oklahoma team, and one is to Vandy.
Yeah.
So the other one is to Tennessee, who was in the playoff. So I mean, I'm willing to give that one sort of a bit of a pass there, right? Tennessee's ranked 9th, Alabama's ranked. Sorry, I just want to make sure that
Tennessee's
correct.
7th.
Tennessee is 7th. They are the 9 seed. They are the 7th ranked teams. This is the wonderful part of this whole scenario. So right now, as it stands, your number 1 seed is Oregon. If you were to take the rankings as they are right now and just pretend that the higher seeds beat the lower seeds in all their various conference championship games, your number 1 seed is Oregon. Your number 2 seed is Texas. Your number 3 seed is SMU. Your number 4 seed is Boise State. So those are your 4 teams right now in a projected playoff bracket getting buys, which means Boise State and SMU, 2 teams who are not Power 5 teams last year, are getting buys. You hear that, playoff committee? You're doing it right. Love you. Smooches.
Yeah.
Your number 5 seed is Penn State hosting number 12, Arizona State. Your number 8 seed, Ohio State hosting the Vols of Tennessee. Your number 6 seed, go ahead, Krabby. We can't hear you.
Because I was pouring a beer. I am amazed at this point that Ohio State is hosting a game. I was certain they would drop far enough that they would be going on the road. So, yay for us.
Your number 6 seed, Notre Dame hosting Alabama. Hey, when have we seen Alabama and Notre Dame play in a playoff game? Has it ended well for Notre Dame? No. And finally, your number 7, Georgia Bulldogs hosting Hoosiers, the 10th seed Indiana Hoosiers. And yeah, I'd watch that game. We actually were talking about this last week, and I think Carla, I think you're still on the record of give me the Friday night game.
Yes. Yeah,
And if you have Arizona State coming
give me the
to
Friday night game.
the Friday night game, December 21st, I'm sure it'll be nice and toasty warm in Happy Valley.
The little
Reader,
whiteout energy.
Yep.
which way? The crowd or the stuff from the sky? Who's to say? Camp Scatabo in the snow, though. I feel like that gives him like a little bit of a power boost somehow, but the
Maybe a
rest
little
of the team
Mm.
not so great. Tennessee, Ohio State would be a blast. Alabama, Notre Dame. Sorry, Notre Dame, and Indiana, Georgia could be a blast too. So again, I think the committee's getting this mostly right. Your first team out is Miami, which sucks. I think Alabama probably should drop. Miami could have made more of a case here. But because they lost to Syracuse, they are not in the ACC title game. Clemson is. Right. So they could have potentially made the case / won the ACC and just launched them and just gave themselves the pass into the playoff. And that's the other part here is that this is all pre-conference championship weekend, which means we don't have conference champions locked in, which means some things could get a little squirrely.
Yes.
If Clemson wins, I don't think you can take out. I don't know. I mean, if that's a tight game, can you take out SMU?
Like,
and
I
then,
think SMU potentially drops a little bit. I think maybe
sure.
Alabama drops. I think Boise State is going to run. So we're still, things are still up in the air. But again, a 12-team playoff, like the conference championship games matter.
Yep.
I know that everybody keeps saying that they don't, because you have a team like Ohio State who lost and then they're going to get in anyways. So who cares about the conference championship games? But in my mind, it's this sort of thing where Miami, who's on the outside looking in right now because they're not in the conference championship game, doesn't have another chance to make their case that they should be in or to guarantee themselves a spot in. I think that is the more interesting scenario here. If you're a basketball fan, this is the bubble team who doesn't win their conference tournament and they lose in like the semifinals or something like that, where they could have had a chance to really lock themselves in with a, close loss in the conference championship game or a win in the conference championship game. I think this is where the playoff is actually doing the Lord's work. And it's keeping people interested across the board. It is bringing more eyeballs to the rest of the sport. I would not be surprised if you see an expansion I've seen talk of expansion to 14. I've seen talk of expansion to 16. To be entirely honest, just match the FCS and D2 and just go full and D3 and just go full 24 teams. You have 134 teams. You have 132 teams or 133 teams in FBS right now. It's going from 12 to 24. It opens the door to imagine a South Carolina team getting a shot. Imagine a BYU team getting a shot. Imagine Ole Miss and Illinois. Like right now, your number 24 team is Army. And Memphis is right there. Like there's a number of teams. Colorado's at 23. Like all of these things, I foresee at some point in the future potentially getting a full 2014 playoff like the FCS and D2 has. But it's conference championship time. Oh, sorry.
It is.
Championship time.
Champinchip.
By the way, I had to add that to my Google spell check.
Did you?
So that had to add it in there because it's like, did you mean championship? Absolutely not.
No.
No.
Championship.
Add to personal dictionary.
It's right there in my notes, and it's red underline and everything, and I'm just like, guys, just leave it alone. We got some actual football to talk about coming this weekend. We have 9 championship games. We're going to go through the group of 5 games first, and these will come at you in chronological order, although I would argue that they're almost in order of importance, at least in terms of my thinking. We begin at 7 p.m. on Friday on CBSSN, the network of
Champions.
We just did this. We literally just did this a week ago, except in a different location. Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. The Gamecocks are favored by 4. The fun index is getting to be fun, 57.5. AJ, how's this rematch going to go?
So this is, yes, as you mentioned, this is the game from last week, but the location is flipped. Last week, the game, I believe, was in Western Kentucky. So you now have they're flipping it around, and it's a home and home is really what they're doing here. I am not sure that this was hey, Western Kentucky has a chance to play their way in, or if Jacksonville State is just kind of like letting it go. Like Logan Smothers, who's their normal starter, looks like he only played for a little bit. Tyler Huff was brought in. I think there is I think this is now that it is the conference championship game, I think they're like, okay, Jacksonville State home game. Western Kentucky's coming to town. We've seen what they're going to put up. Caden Veltkamp from Western Kentucky had 47 passing attempts. Like they were going to go try and win this game because that was how they got into the game in the first place. Jacksonville State didn't need it, so they didn't really play it that hard. I think your Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, he had a great run. I think Jacksonville State wins this at home and wins a conference championship, gets a nice little bowl slot coming for him.
Very nice. Carla, what do you think about this? Yeah, are you just like all in on the burn Western to the ground? Is that?
I mean, I have to be, right. Like that's
Okay,
the
that's
role
fair.
that I
Yeah.
play on the show. Is that
Absolutely.
I'm very I can't talk about that team. But that being said, I think you're right on your assessment there, AJ, because I'm looking at either the Western defense played out of its mind, or Jacksonville State wasn't really fully in that game because Trey is nowhere to be found in the box score, right? Trey Stewart, who is just an absolute beast, leading rusher for the Gamecocks was Huff, and that's not normal. That's not normal. So that was either a really outstanding. I didn't see any of that game. It was available on TV. I didn't see it. That was either a really outstanding defensive display by the Hilltoppers, or Jacksonville State kind of mailed it in a little bit, saving some bodies, knowing that they were going to play for a conference title the following week. Jacksonville State has been a really good team, and that being said, they only lost by 2 last. I mean, it was a tight game. So I think the Gamecocks are the pick here. I think this game will be tight. I mean, Western's good. Western's real good. I think they're going to give them a fight, but I think this is the year that the Gamecocks win themselves a CUSA title.
Okay. This would be their second. This is their second season in the conference.
Second season in the conference. It'd be their first title. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, both good teams. The points you guys made about maybe Jacksonville State taking the foot off the gas a week ago. Very well taken. Not in Bowling Green, with an actual title on the line, a game that Jacksonville State wants and needs. I think they are good enough. They are better enough than Western to take this one at home and win CUSA in their second season in the conference. Next up at 8 p.m. on Fox, we have the Mountain West title game, number 20 UNLV at number 10 Boise State. Boise is favored by 4. The AJ Fund Index is creeping up by a point, 58.5. Carla, how things going to go on the blue turf?
Can we get Ashton Janty to 2,500 yards?
That'd be awesome.
Like I think we're real close, right? Like he needs 212 if I'm doing math correctly.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, he needs 212 to get there. We've seen this game once, right? We saw this game once already this season, and UNLV gave them a run for their money. And so I think Boise cannot let their guard down here at all. I think this is a game that Boise is the better team. I think Boise is motivated here because they know that if they win this game, they've essentially punched themselves a first round playoff by.
Mhm.
And so I think that's going to be a motivating factor here. UNLV's had themselves a hell of a season, though. I mean, with all the turmoil that they had at the beginning of the year, switching
For sure.
quarterbacks, and they're right. They are more than capable of playing spoiler in this
Mhm.
game. More than capable of playing spoiler. I just I like Ashton Janney too much. I think Boise wins what ends up being a tight game at home, but I think the motivation is going to be there for the Broncos. So, yeah, Smurf Turf wins.
Okay, AJ, what do you think?
I'm with Carla here. Ashton Chinty, this was his worst game of the season. That includes the Oregon game, by the way. His worst
Right.
game of the season was the UNLV game.
Mhm.
A lot of what they did, which by the way, that game was a banger.
It was.
But what UNLV did to Boise State was they were one of the first teams to really stack the box. They
Mhm.
put 9 men in the box, and UNLV has really, really good linebackers. And that's really what I think led to their ability to stop Ashton Jeanty. He had 33 carries for a pedestrian 128 yards. That's 3.9 yards per carry and only one TD.
Mhm.
That is the most normal box score of his entire season.
Sure.
If you go
It's
through
true.
his game log this year, he's had 267. He had 25 carries for 192 yards against Oregon, 11 carries for 127 against Portland State because they pulled him,
Mhm.
26 for 259 against Washington State, 13 for 186 against Utah State, 31 for 217 against my beloved Bows. 33 for 128 against UNLV, and then 31 for 149 against San Diego State. Again, teams that said, screw it, 9 men in the box.
Yep.
We have good linebackers. Let's actually go try to stop him. And then after that, he's been still 209 against Nevada, 226 against Oregon State. He's been able to maintain a very high level of production. I think UNLV goes with the exact same game plan. 9 men in the box, and we're going to tackle you.
Mhm.
And this is going to be a long day for you. And they're going to try and make Maddox Madsen beat them. He was fine against UNLV. He was the one, he was still making plays. He was throwing everything to Matt Lauder, who's their tight end.
Mhm.
But he was only 18 to 33 for 209 in that game.
Mhm.
He's not
Mhm.
great as a quarterback. I think UNLV does keep this close. There is a reason why this line is only 2.5 and Boise's playing at home. Or sorry, the line is 4, but they're playing at home, right?
Yes.
So they're getting 3 points
Yes.
just for being at home. So this is really a 1-point game. I am very, very interested in this game. I'm locking in on this one. Fun index is perfectly high. Give me Boise to win, though.
Okay. Okay. You do like the fun index, and magical things happen on the blue turf. It, it's interesting to think about what happens um, when teams stack the box against Boise. I'd look at Madsen. He's not, his numbers aren't bad. It's definitely he's not throwing bombs. He's his um, the completion percentage is nice, but it's averaging 7.7 yards per catch. And that's about where his tailback averaging 7.7 or 7.3 yards per game or yards per carry. So between them, they have a little interesting dichotomy there. They're going to follow Ashton Jetty. He's going to have a big day. And the Boise wants to be in the playoff. They want to maintain their spot in the playoff. And they will win this one with no trouble. American Athletic Conference, number 17, Tulane. I did not grab Army's ranking. That was one that I missed.
24.
And Tulane is not ranked because they lost last weekend. So the Army's Tulane at 24 ranked Army. This is a Friday, 8 p.m. on ABC. Tulane is favored by 5.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is an Army-esque 47.5. AJ, what do you think?
I am really hopeful. There's a reason why Tulane is favored by 5.5 here. I'm wondering if Tulane does to Army what they did to Navy. They went to Navy and they beat the brakes off of them. Navy and Army are on a bit of a divergent path here. Army's only losses to Notre Dame. it was a bad loss to Notre Dame. But Tulane did not look good against Memphis. I watched that whole game, and that whole time Memphis kind of held them down in New Orleans too. That was not a Memphis home game. That was in New Orleans. I'm interested to see how Tulane bounces back.
Okay.
Is Army looking ahead because it's Navy week next week, or do you get a full attention because this is for a conference championship? I'm very interested to see that. I think Tulane wins, and we get a very, very, very good Army Navy game next week. I'm very excited for that.
Okay.
But I think Tulane gets the win here. They go all the way up to West Point, but they come out with a win.
Okay. Okay. Carla, how do you see this one going?
I don't know. I don't know because I can't get a read on this, right? Because like AJ said, I mean, Tulane did not look great against Memphis last week. Last time everybody saw Army was getting throttled in Yankee Stadium. But last week though, like, yeah, they won, but like it was a 5-point win over Meep.
Right.
Like that's kind of a like how is Army responding at this point? And so like both these teams are kind of like, I don't know which team's going to show up. I agree with AJ that yes, the last time we saw Tulane play a service academy, it did not end well for the troops. I know that quite well.
Yes.
Darn wave. But God, I really don't know. I think Tulane is going to make this really, really, really interesting. I think Army is probably the better team here, but I think Tulane matches up well against this option kind of performance that the service academies do. God, I'm going to take Army in a close game.
Yes.
Super close. Super
Yes.
close game. I don't know if I believe that. It's not gonna like it's not gonna stun me either way in this one, but I'll stick with Army for the time being, and it's the last time that I will pick them this season.
Fair. Okay. Okay. I look at this game and of all of the conference championship games, and granted a lot of them are indoors, but all the title games, this is the one that drops a Southern team into a place that can be pretty chilly. The upper Hudson Valley, it's going to be in the upper 20s when this game kicks off at 8 p.m. Army, of course, is the home of the Army. It's the home of the 10th Mountain Division. The troops that are ready to prepared to fight in the cold and the snow. It's not going to snow in West Point on Friday night, but it's going to be chilly, and they're going to blitz the wave, by which I mean they're going to win a tight game. But Army will win this game on Friday night and then prepare for their next game, which is next weekend. We get to my favorite of this weekend's conference title games, Maction at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. This is at noon on Saturday on ESPN. My Bobcats versus the hated Miami Red Hawks. Miami's favored by 2.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a perfectly Midwestern 44.5. Carla, how's this going to go?
This is another tricky one. I mean, when you look for anything to like give you an edge as to like who's coming into this game with momentum, both these teams have won at least their last 5 straight games. And so they're both coming in on a bit of a roll here. Ohio has been very consistent over the last several times that we've watched them, all the way through Maction, all the way through the Maction slate. They were winning easily through a lot of their schedule. And we saw some of the Miami games where they were, kind of hanging on. The game against NIU in particular was a little bit sloppy at some points.
They didn't. And again, I was not watching, but they struggled with Bowling Green. And granted, BG had a good year.
Yeah.
But they struggled on Friday to win that game and get to this one.
Yeah, and I had picked Bowling Green to win that game, so I mean that's a decent win for Miami. Um, I'll pick with my heart and say Ohio. I just because this looks really evenly matched.
Mhm.
I think this is gonna be a slugfest. Dry track though, because indoors at Ford
Yep.
Field.
Yep.
So that kind of evens some things out here. But yeah, what the heck? Go Ohio.
Okay. I appreciate that. AJ, what do you think?
Um, I'm with Carla here.
Mhm.
You Ohio leans much more. At least I was going to say more on the pass, but they've done a very good job spreading out the run.
Mhm.
They've got 2,500 yards on the year across nine different runners. They have two. They have Parker Navarro, who does a very nice job running the ball,
Yes, he does.
almost as much as their starting running back. I feel like Ohio has done a better overall job. A reminder though, they did lose at Miami
They did.
this year already.
Mhm.
Can they can Miami of Ohio beat them again? And as we usually find in these sorts of games, it's hard to beat a team twice. And I'm going to go ahead and take your Ohio Bobcats. I think I think they're on a better roll. They have played much better to finish the season. Maybe it's because they're playing the latter half of the conference schedule,
Right.
but I think they've done a better job overall.
Mhm.
And I think Miami of Ohio does not have it.
Okay. Okay. This it, the I think this is the thing that's going to come up a lot more often. The notion that teams are playing rematches in title games or eventually in the playoff. Um, and this is the third of four games we've talked about and that have a rematch from the regular season. And in fact, the last time that OU lost was on October 19th when they visited Oxford, Ohio for the regular season version of the Battle of the Bricks. Miami won that game 30-20. Then I'll explain what the difference is in a second. OU has been running the ball really well, 210 yards a game, 17th in the country. OU has been playing very good defense, giving up only 18 a game, which is good for 17th in the country. Miami's offense runs through quarterback Brett Gabbard. Very good. He's one of those guys that's been in his program for 6 or 7 years. Um, he threw for 178 yards and three touchdowns. So productive, not a ton of yardage, but productive for sure in the first matchup. Here's the difference, though. OU quarterback Parker Navarro was benched to start game one. He was going through a rough patch in the season. Since then, he has been playing really, really well. He is not, I mean, no one's going to mistake him for an All American. He has 10 touchdown passes to 10 interceptions. But he's a legit dual threat quarterback. Also, OU has Tony Tyus, who is 40 yards short of 1,000 yards for the season. I would imagine he will get to that mark um, on Saturday. But Parker Navarro, he's playing really well, and he's going to lead the Bobcats to their very first conference title since 1968. It's going to happen on Saturday. Um, so be sure to turn into that one. And if you don't want to deal with the big boys on Saturday night, you have this option: the Sun Belt Championship, Saturday at 7:30 p.m. On ESPN. Marshall at Louisiana Lafayette. Lafayette is favored by 5.5, the AJ Fun Index. Midland, 56.5 points. AJ, how's this going to go?
The whole conference championship scenario played out the way that we kind of expected it would. The
Mhm.
two teams who had just win and you're in did that.
Mhm.
I will say Marshall required a trick play in overtime to beat James Madison. It was a very
Still.
fun trick play that they
Mhm.
ran, but they did win. Louisiana has looked really good all year.
Mhm.
I mean, they have just blitzed the entirety of the Sun Belt schedule. Marshall has played really well as well. Um, I think it will be interesting for the Raging Cajuns to celebrate their Sun Belt title just because they have not really held it in a very, very long time. I don't remember the last time they held it, but I'm taking the Raging Cajuns to win here. Jim, I'm sorry if you're watching. My friend of mine went to Marshall and lives in Huntington, but I think Louisiana's got this one. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. We appreciate you listening. Carla, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think I agree with AJ here for a couple of reasons. And this is going to play a factor in some of the big boy games we're going to talk about here in a minute. Um, Marshall, as you referenced, had to go to double overtime to beat James Madison last week,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have to go on the road to Louisiana on their field. I think there's a little bit of a fatigue factor here, a little bit of a travel factor here. I think this game is tight. I think both these teams are really good. But I think Louisiana, because of the way they've played the last several weeks, and the fact that they're playing at home against a team that had to play a little extra last weekend, Raging Cajuns, raise yourself a trophy.
I'm looking at a team that wears green pants and used to be a MAC school. I want them. I am cheering for the Thundering Herd. Absolutely. And they come into this game in seemingly good shape. They have won six straight. Their last loss was to Georgia Southern, back on my birthday on October 12th. Um, but man, the way Lafayette has been playing, I think we're supposed to call them Louisiana right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, they own the official Louisiana
they
title
own
because they
Louisiana.
beat Monroe. Also, it's not been that long. They won the title in 2020.
Okay, that's
It's not been
still
that long.
that recent. Okay, um, at home, your opponent's coming off an overtime game. Um, man, I would love it if Marshall win this game, but ULL is the pick here, I believe. That leaves us with four more games. The school's known as the Power Four. The conference is known as the Power Four. We don't actually have a big nude to talk about, but all these games are on Saturday, and we begin in the Big 12 in the Jerry World in Arlington, Texas. This is at noon on ABC. Number 16 Iowa State versus number 15 Arizona State. You have Cyclones and Sparkies and all kinds of fun. And Carla, how is this going to go?
Just the way we predicted at the beginning of the season,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
Arizona State and
it's
Iowa
fine.
State playing for a
Mhm.
Big 12 title. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had this at the beginning of the season, which is why the Big 12 has been so much fun this year. Um, Arizona State, man, how many weeks ago did we say this is the team you don't want to play right now? Right,
Mhm.
we're looking at like maybe 6 weeks ago, that they really kind of started putting everything together, and they've just like been on a rampage through the Big 12.
Mhm.
They're still the team that you don't want to play right now, and they are rising. Iowa State, sure. I mean, yes, they had to play Kansas State, a ranked Kansas State team. I
Mhm.
get that. But like you beat Iowa by 3. You had to you lost to Kansas, you lost to Texas Tech. Like there's just Iowa State has just been like, okay, let's use the Miami analogy. Iowa State has been fawing a whole lot, right? A whole
Yes.
lot of fa right now out of
Yes.
in Iowa City, and Arizona State just they're just winning. They're just winning games. And the one thing why I'm going to go Sun Devils here and
Mhm.
feel actually pretty good about this pick is, as AJ has mentioned a number of times, Cam Scatabo is just an absolute delight. You know the one weakness that Iowa State has on defense? Yeah, it's against the run.
Well.
So to me, this is Scatabo's day.
Mhm.
He is going to carry his Sun Devils to a Big 12 title, because winning the Big 12 is hard
Or something.
or something.
AJ, what do you think?
Um, I'm with Carla.
Mhm.
Arizona State has been on a tear, and Iowa State, excuse me, the clones have been having a whole lot of fa and not a lot of foe.
Mhm.
There is something to be said for being able to win games that you are not supposed to be winning. There is
Yeah.
something to be said for that.
Sure.
But that said, Cam Scatabo comes for us all, and it's forks up. There's no question in my mind. Arizona State is winning this. Arizona State's going to the playoff. Playoff Arizona State, y'all. Get ready. Also, this game's at noon, which means somebody's getting the sun in their eyes,
True.
and
That's a really good point.
somebody's getting the sun in their eyes. And you
Yep.
know who deals with the sun better? The Sun Devils. That's right. Um, Arizona State wins this game. Also, when you pointed out there is no big nude, I was like, wait a minute, there's no big nude.
No, there's no big.
What? There's the last Fox game of the year is the Mountain West Championship game on Friday night. I'm very surprised by that, but kind of not. So,
there's so much garbage on ESPN, but I would still rather watch them do play by play. I'm sorry. I'm just Gus, I love you. And Joe Klett is fantastic, but yeah. We spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks talking about teams that got hot at the right time at the end of the season. Sparky is right there at the top of the list. Of all the rivalry week games, State's win in Tucson was one of the most demonstrative, a 49-7 beatdown over Arizona, over your rival, planted the fork in the end zone and all that stuff. Iowa State has taken steps to recover from its the midseason slump that it has, but going with a hot hand in this game, Arizona State is going to win that title. Next up at 4 p.m. on ABC, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. That can mean only one thing. It's the SEC Championship game. Number 5, Georgia versus number 2, Texas. Texas is favored by 2.5. The AJ Fun Index is a not so fun 48.5. AJ, what do you think?
I think we are in for a treat.
Okay.
I'm interested to see, again, this is a rematch. Mm-hmm. Georgia went to Austin and destroyed Texas. Mm-hmm. That game was over at halftime. Yeah. Full stop. I'm interested to see if Texas has learned anything. Because one of the things that Texas has done over the last few weeks is they have won some sloppy games. They have not really played the lights out football they were playing at the beginning of the season. They have played a whole lot of slop. They lost to Georgia. They only beat Vandy by 3. Mm-hmm. They beat Florida by a whole bunch because that was the one game that DJ Lagway was hurt. Then they beat Arkansas 20-10, Kentucky 31-14, and then A&M 17-7. They've been playing some slop. They are going to they need to get away from the slop. They need to be playing the finesse football that they can play. When they were winning, they beat Oklahoma 34-3, and they were beating Michigan 31-12. They were putting big points on teams, which they can do. I think Kirby's going to wind his way through this game.
Okay.
And I think Georgia's coming out with an SEC title. That said, this is not the first time that Georgia has gone into a game where it looks like they're going to win and the other team looks like they're probably going to lose, and then Georgia leaves Atlanta without the title again. See, last year against Alabama, yes, and the game before that. Kirby gets to play somebody who's not Alabama in an SEC title game. Let's see how that goes. Maybe it'll work out better for them.
How many timeouts will Kirby call during the game?
6.
Use them all.
He will use all 3 in the first half. He will use all 3 in the second half. He will take his timeouts and ruin the flow of the game, as he does, with his stupid haircut. Dogs win, but
okay. Carla,
this game's going to take 5 hours because it's on ABC and it's the SEC on ABC. This game's going to take so long. This game's going to end at midnight. It starts at 4. They're going to somehow miss the entire ACC championship game. That'll be played on News Nation or some nonsense.
Carla, if Kirby had 8 timeouts, would he use them all?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I actually was going to answer your question with how many timeouts is Kirby going to call? 8, because I think there's a real potential here that this game goes into at least double overtime. Because I know, we're all shaking our heads here, but okay. So we just talked about, I mentioned this top of show that I think this is a factor here is how tired Georgia is heading into this game
Mm,
because they got beat the hell up at Georgia,
yeah.
in that Georgia Tech game. They have a lot of work to do this week to recover, to be
Mhm.
able to be ready to be up to play this game. That being said, this is in the Benzodome. It is essentially a home game. This will
Yep.
be a very pro Georgia crowd. They are used to that. Now,
For sure.
however, as AJ mentioned, that doesn't always necessarily translate into a win here. Georgia has not come away with SEC titles in the last couple of seasons, so that's a good assessment. Which Carson Beck do we see? That's a big question here. Because I mean, it's just been up and down and all over the place over the last 5 weeks. As to whether or not Carson Beck is going to stay settled in the pocket or what's happened, what's going on here. We don't know. On the other side of the ball, Quinn Ewers has been okay, not making a ton of mistakes. Texas threw in a couple of wrinkles this last week against Texas A&M, throwing Arch Manning out there
Right.
in a couple of plays. That's a new wrinkle offensively. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see if they continue that. If that was kind of a test to get ready for, assuming they were going to win that game to play Georgia again. We know that Texas is also good with Arch, and so does Sark decide to do a little bit of mix up just to kind of get his team going? Texas just coming off of an emotional win. That was a game that's a rivalry that is hard to explain. They hadn't played each other in 12 years, 13 years. And they went in and they just absolutely dominated that game against a team that was tired. It's tough to beat a team twice in the same season. I'm going to contradict AJ here. I think Texas is going to find a way to win this game. It's going to come down to the end. And again, I hate to say it. I think this game potentially goes to overtime. I think it's going to be that tight. But I like Texas in this game. And
How
we'll see
many?
if I hate myself later for saying that.
How many overtime?
How
Nine?
many overtimes?
10?
Two.
10? 10?
No, two.
No?
Because I think when they have to start going for two, I think Texas can win after going for two. Because remember, Kirby can't stop them if he doesn't call
Right.
timeout, and
Yes.
he only gets one timeout, so he'll call the timeout, right? So
Yeah, he
anyhow,
will.
yeah.
He will. Um, we did get the good Carson Beck in Georgia's game against Georgia Tech. I assume Kirby is guarding against fielding the kind of Bulldogs team that lost to Ole Miss this season or almost lost at Kentucky. But again, the idea that this team that was a physical game. I mean, and Tech got through it. AJ, you mentioned this. Tech got through it as by running the football, and being tough up front and being physical. Not an easy win. Even before you get to the eight overtimes. The point about this is yet another game that's a rematch. And we've all made the point during the show that it's tough to win to beat a team twice in one season. This is a dynamic we're going to see more often, and it's interesting. Um, but I think Texas is going to have that first game just stored up here, stored in the memory banks. They're going to be thinking about it. Texas defense is going to step up. I think we're if we get to an overtime, we're going to see some scoring here, but I think the Longhorns are going to slow down Carson Beck, and Texas is going to win their very first SEC title in their very first year in the SEC. The game we've all been waiting for, the game, my favorite game of this lineup, besides the Maction
That's right.
earlier
It's
in the
the
day.
ACC championship game, right?
No,
Lot. No,
no.
no.
We'll get to that
Oh,
one in a second. In lovely downtown Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Stadium at 8 p.m. on Saturday night on the Columbia Broadcasting System. Number 3, Penn State versus number 1, Oregon. The Ducks are favored only by 3.5 points. The AJ Fund is a Big Ten appropriate 49.5. And I'm going to go first because Carla, we're going to give you the last word for your Nittany Lions. the thing that I'm excited about is I think we're going to get the best look all season at what Penn State is all about, what kind of team they are. That when we discussed this, the game against Ohio State, what was tight, but I don't think Penn State and Carla, and I, knew you agree with me. Penn State did not go all out in that game for whatever reason. Um, the Nittany Lions play unreal defense. Abdul Carter is an absolute menace. Um, they score, and if they get Tyler Warren involved, they are really tough to defend because they use him so well. I wish they had bigger threats on the outside. And as I mentioned, James Franklin and the offensive coaches sometimes have the same kind of brain farts that Brian Day apparently does. Um, Penn State has taken some criticism for their schedule, but look, um, they've largely done what Notre Dame has done. They have won big, and when the occasional game comes up that turns out to be a tough one, and I'm thinking of like at USC, at Minnesota a couple weeks ago, they've figured out how to win those. That's good stuff on the resume as far as I'm concerned. We have a pretty good idea of who Oregon is. Physicality, speed, great imagination on the part of the coaches, and Dylan Gabriel, who's been playing college football since the mid '90s. I think Penn State's front seven can pressure Gabriel, and unless the Penn State offensive coaches for some reason button up Tyler Warren once again. If they use him to his potential, he is a weapon that unlike anything the Ducks have seen this year, maybe since Ashton Genty. The only and after all, the only people who have been able to stop Tyler Warren all season have been the Penn State coaches. So it's come in, chips on their shoulders, and they're going to leave Indy with the Big Ten title. AJ, let's hear what you think.
Apparently this just happened. So I can't. Oh no, this happened earlier today. But I just saw this news and it's got me thrown off. Rest in peace to UTEP head coach Dana Dimmel.
Okay.
Who passed away in his sleep last night.
Oh, I did see that. Yes.
That's nuts.
Yes.
Sorry to have to throw this into a down moment, but whoo, that is wild. Anyways, I think the big thing here is this is a big game that we haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
James Franklin against Michigan and against Ohio State has had brain fart after brain fart. In various, like, I could call these crazy, like, Carla, I think it was against, who was it where they threw it was the Minnesota game where they had the like fake punt on their own 30 to
that was Minnesota. At Minnesota.
Like,
yes.
He's capable of making these big play calls, but when it comes to the Ohio State game and when it comes to the Michigan game, turtles up real fast. Does he have that same mental block for Oregon? That's the interesting part.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, they need to do what Ohio State forgot to do with Marvin Harrison against Michigan in 2021. Just smash the Tyler Warren button. Just hit the Tyler Warren button until it doesn't work anymore. Okay. And I think I'm interested to see if I actually was asked, I went to the gym tonight and multiple people asked me, because I've had college football thoughts at the gym, can Oregon beat Penn State? Can Penn State beat Oregon? And my thought continued to come back to big game James Franklin. He is 3-17 against top 10 ranked teams.
True.
It is not his place of success.
Mm-hmm.
I think that 3.5 number is a little low.
Okay.
And I think Oregon comes in and wins the Big Ten in their first season.
Okay.
Which, by the way, if that goes the way I think it does, and Arizona State also wins, that means 2 teams from the Pac-12
Here we
went
go.
to other conferences and won it like it was hard, apparently. Weird. It's almost like the Pac-12 was the original Big 12 and ate itself constantly. Get wrecked. Quack, quack.
Carla, you got a Big Ten title game.
Go off, Carla. Let them know.
How's this going to go?
Well, everything that AJ just said and everything that you said about James Franklin and the big game is the very first thought that happened in my mind when I looked at my phone and said, okay, I guess we're going to go play for a Big Ten title. Like, I'm not even joking. That is the very first thought that I had was crap.
That is the perfect Penn State reaction, by the way.
It is, right? Because it's like when I saw that happen, as we talked about how we were all excited about our bye and that was going to be great. The only thing that I could think of in this game that every possible outcome is bad. And that is I don't want to fall too far down an analogy here, but I talk about this with my students all the time.
Okay. Please.
Right? Because I teach crisis communication strategy. And every time we put together communication strategy, because this has happened to me a number of times, we always plan for what happens if it fails. What happens if this goes poorly? You know what we never plan for? What happens if it works? The number of times that I have made plans for how do you respond if this all goes south very quickly? And then suddenly it works out really well and you go, I didn't have a plan for that. And you're scrambling, right? That's how I feel right now going into this game. Okay. I am mentally prepared for this to not go well because I know that that's the way that this coaching staff coaches. And Andy Kotelnicki, and here's the wrinkle that I don't want, is being rumored to be interviewing for the head coaching job at West Virginia.
Okay.
That is a distraction that this team does not need right now.
True.
That has me a little bit concerned. I 100% agree with you. Tyler Warren, hit that button until it doesn't work anymore. Actually use both backs, please.
Yes.
As opposed to just relying on Key, because for whatever reason, we've been relying a lot more on Key in go-to situations as opposed to Nick. And I don't fully understand that. Maybe it's a size thing because Key is a little bit bigger. But yeah, let your offensive guys do their thing. The defense is going to give Oregon fits. I am not as concerned about that on the line. I think we're going to be able to get into the backfield and give Gabriel some pressure. You look at these two teams statistically, because I did get a chance to go look at that real quick. They're pretty even across the board. When
they really are.
I was looking for an advantage on one side or the other on every category, offensive and defensive and yardage wise and everything. They're all within 10, 15, 20 yards. There's no one strong area here. This all comes down to whether or not Penn State can win the big game. It's a mentality thing. It's going to be just like what we just at the top of the show talking about. This is what it comes down to. Exactly. Can James Franklin win the big game? He has the tools to do it. Audrey Snyder in The Athletic wrote a column about Penn State entering into this game, but the way they posted it to Blue Sky was really interesting. The post said, Penn State is exactly where it's always wanted to be. And if it wins, it potentially could be the number 1 seed in the playoff. And I was like, I don't think so. I think if Texas wins and Penn State wins, I think Texas still gets the 1 seed for avenging its only loss of the year and potentially have a stronger strength of schedule overall. Because let's be real, Penn State didn't play some of the what we would think of the upper tier. Penn State didn't play Indiana, right? And so there are
no Michigan game.
Yeah, no Michigan game. No land grant. I've already bitched about that enough. But yeah, so I think if they both win, I still think Penn State's a 2 seed. But the best part about all this was as I was driving back, we were driving back from Cincinnati, and we came through Louisville.
Mhm.
And like just for funsies, I pulled out my phone. I was like, I wonder how much it would cost to go to the Big Ten title game. And so I'm looking and I'm looking through there, and you know what? It's actually not that expensive to go to the Big Ten title game because I
Right.
think, crappy, I'm sorry, I think a lot of your Ohio State fans were unloading their tickets, um, because
I
they
I mean,
that's
yes.
I think that's probably what happened here because there's a lot of resale tickets that are pretty decent, in price points. And so then I looked at my husband. I said, "It's my birthday weekend. Um, gonna go to the Big Ten title game. Guess what I'm doing this weekend?
Carla, what are you guys gonna do this
You all
weekend?
are gonna have to fill me in on the rest of the slate on Saturday because I'm going to the Big Ten title game."
It's your birthday. You going to the Big Ten title game,
Yes.
girl?
Yes.
We're popping
So
bottles in Indy. We're getting shrimp cocktails.
we might have to stay an hour outside of Indy to find a hotel room we can
It's
afford,
fine.
but like
It's fine.
it's fine. It's fine.
Mhm.
I as in all of my years of being a Penn State fan and being a Penn State legacy, I have never once seen the Nittany Lions play live, and to be able
And that is
to,
still amazing to
I
me.
know, well, getting tickets to Beaver Stadium is impossible, unless you know somebody.
Tough for sure. Yes.
Yeah, and so
Or expensive.
yes,
Yeah.
both those things. But yeah, so to have the ability to go see them play for a Big Ten title is just kind of a little bit of a dream come true. And
Mhm.
even if it goes poorly, just it was just good to be in the game. Like I don't mean to be that guy
Mhm.
in this whole conversation, but it's going to be a thrill to be able to see it happen.
Awesome.
And unless something strange happens in the next 24 hours, we're getting everything squared away and we're going to do this. So
Sure.
so yeah, if there's a note in the show notes that we canceled the trip, I'll let you I'll let you know. But
Please, that'd be
but
helpful.
but yeah, no, that's the plan right now. And I hope and I will they keep the roses as part of this? Because that used to be the thing that you would hold up, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not a thing anymore. But I hope there's something like that.
It's called a Big Ten title. You hold the trophy.
There's
Big high in the air.
there's an
You
actual
hold that
trophy
one.
and a
there's
big
an actual
sign
trophy, but I don't know. It like
and
the roses was always a fun thing, but whatever.
absolutely. I totally agree.
I really,
But
really hope we smash that Tyler Warren button, defense plays well, and James Franklin doesn't coach scared, and my Knits are raising a Big Ten title on Saturday night in Indianapolis.
I am, for the record, I am for Penn State in this game. And we will see how it goes. We have one more game to talk about. And the fun potential here is I off the charts. Maybe that's not reflected in the AJ Fun Index, but it should be a good time. At 8 p.m. on ABC in the lovely Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Did I say it's the ACC championship? It is the ACC championship. Number 17 Clemson versus I'm I was typing my notes and I'm like SMU. Why is SMU playing Clemson? They're in, but SMU is in the ACC. They have done well this
Crappy, is
season.
this a conference game?
It is a conference game. It is a conference championship. They've done well,
Okay.
and they're favored by 2.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 55.5. Carla, how's this one going to go?
Well, I'm making my analysis on this one completely with my heart, because
Yes.
if Clemson wins this game, we get chaos in the playoff.
This is kind of like the last chance for that, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
We get like legit chaos because right now, Clemson not really close to making the playoff field at this point. If Clemson wins this football game, guess what? They're in the playoff.
Automatic.
So then what do you do with SMU? What team gets left out? Here's my concern.
I hope.
Here's my concern.
Yes.
Indiana's sitting at 10. It's a 10 seed right now. A Clemson win here, in theory, depending on how things sort themselves out, because what happens if UNLV wins the Mountain West? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of possible scenarios here that, depending on how these all go, like, Indiana needs to be in the playoff. They're 10-1.
They do.
They need to be in the playoff. SMU, please go win yourselves an ACC title. Because we need your help here as Big Ten fans. We need your help to make sure that Indiana stays in the title game here. And to be perfectly honest, Clemson's 3-2 in their last 5 games.
Yes.
SMU is playing like the better team right now. We will see if they are prepared for this kind of spotlight, for this kind. I mean, Dabo has been here. That's the one thing that we've got going. Dabo has been here. Klubnik has been here. You know, can SMU, can SMU pony up to the lights? That I just walked myself into that one. It's late. Nice. I'm tired.
It was very well done.
But SMU's got to win this game. So I am all in on the Mustangs in this one. Yeah.
Okay. AJ, what do you think?
I am here for SMU for different reasons. By the way, Carla, when you started saying that, my brain immediately went to no. Clemson's got to win this game. Let's get this chaos. Let's spin this chaos wheel real good. However,
yes,
SMU needs to win this game for one reason and one reason only.
Which is?
There are 2 court cases right now from Florida State and from Clemson in which Florida State in particular, this is my favorite one, specifically said amazing. if we're part of the ACC, our schedule kept us out of the playoffs. We want to go to a better conference. The prime example is we're bringing in SMU, and SMU is going to win their conference in the first year, and Florida State is staring up from the basement. Give me SMU to win, which, by the way, I've picked Oregon. I did pick Georgia to win the SEC. Dang it. But right now, the top 5 conference champions. The only one who was in their conference last year is Boise State. Arizona State is in the Big 12, is the Big 12 champion. Right. Oregon, the Big 10 champion. SMU, the ACC champion. And Texas, the SEC champion. Listen, college football 25. We are here, baby. We are doing weird seasons now, and we are letting this all the way through. I would love nothing more than SMU to come in and again win the ACC like it was hard, and just absolutely bury all of this nonsense about, in my opinion, this is what buries the concept of the quote unquote Power Five, is all of these teams coming in from other conferences that were deemed lesser and immediately winning those conferences. That's my favorite part of this whole season.
Dude, I mean, I said my second sentence on my show notes says insanely fun regular season. We extend that to the conference championship games and this one, and it has been fantastic. And if SMU were to complete like a trifecta of newcomers winning conference titles, I think that would be amazing. I'm torn. I want to cheer for anything that could result with Alabama being left out of the playoff. But Carla, you're correct in that a Clemson win could also knock out Indiana, and man, I hope that doesn't happen because they absolutely deserve to be there. I think SMU is going to is going to beat the Tigers, and could potentially put up a bunch of points on the Tigers. Clemson didn't exactly finish strong. The Show Ponies will be the second team of the day of Saturday, and maybe not the second team overall to win its conference in its first year. Guys, there is one more game we have to pick because we're not going to talk again until after this game is played. And as we are all aware, it is an important game for all of us, because of the legacy stuff involved. On Saturday, December 14th, year of our Lord 2024, in Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland, Navy versus currently ranked number 24 Army. This game is at 3 p.m. on CBS. Tickets are available, according to ESPN, as low as $462. There is no line on this game yet. We are talking about this game literally 2 weeks out. ESPN's matchup predictor gives Army a 57.8% chance of winning. That's the best we can do to give you guys some kind of odds. AJ, how's this game going to go?
I feel like this is a game that at one point we were joking about the possibility of back-to-back Army Navy games.
I wasn't joking. I was
like we
hoping,
were not.
I was cheering for that.
We were partially joking about it, but there was a very
Yeah,
real
yes,
possibility that it was going to happen. And then
yes.
Tulane went and ruined everything. Thanks, Waves.
Mm.
Anyways, this is super interesting because
Mhm.
this is the first time in a very long time we've had two good Army Navy
Mhm.
two good Army
Mhm.
Navy teams.
Mhm.
We've had a whole lot of two bad ones. But this is coming in with a little bit of stakes. There's a possibility that Army could maybe make the playoff if things go away against Tulane. Like if they beat the
Mhm.
crap out of Tulane and UNLV beats Boise State, did they put
Mhm.
UNLV in
Not
over our like you can have a G5 championship? It gets a
not
little funky
impossible.
there.
Not
Not
impossible.
impossible. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I think Army would give up the playoff in a heartbeat just to beat Navy.
Absolutely.
And in my mind, Bryson Daly he is the Keenan Reynolds of this game. Keenan Reynolds owned Army for all of those years. He was the quarterback at Navy
Yes, you did.
during that big run. Bryson Daly is that here. Blake Horvath, who's the quarterback for Navy, is very, very good.
Mhm.
But Bryson Daly is that dude. I'm sorry, Dad. Army wins this game.
Carla, you are a Navy legacy. What do you think about this one?
I am. I'm both a Penn State legacy and a Navy legacy.
Mhm.
And here's the reason why I when you're looking at these two teams
Mhm.
objectively, I would concur that Army is the better team between these two teams
Okay.
from an objective standpoint. Here's the reason why, and of course I'm going to pick Navy because that's what I do. Here's the reason why I think Navy can actually sneak around and win this game.
Okay.
And that's because remember how we were talking about that whole little thing called the bye week when it
Yes,
came to conference championship games? Guess who's
yes,
not playing this week?
right.
Yeah, that would
True.
be your middies.
It is true.
And so your middies get an extra week to get healed up, to get time to look at that playbook. You're leveling the playing field by Army playing for a conference title.
Mhm.
Throw out the records. Go Navy. Beat Army.
I was about to say the itty bitty MIDI committee. So sorry, just happened. When you said middies, it just happened.
Ah!
Sorry, everybody. Itty
There's
bitty
a
MIDI committee.
there's a t-shirt that needs to happen. Um, you, Carl, you make an excellent point about the lead up to this game, and that Navy has a week to rest, to look at play. There's an extra game of tape to watch. Although not like Army's approach to football is going to surprise anybody. Um, I'm looking, and this is absolutely and I'm going to say this, and someone's going to step up and prove me wrong, but this is absolutely a quarterback driven football game. Horvath has had a very nice year, uh, uh, both passing and rushing. Passing 11 TDs, 4 interceptions. He's over 1,000 yards, 1,100 and change. Um, Daily for Army, it does not have the same yardage, does not have the same totals, 8 TDs, 1 interception. Their carries, their offensive, their rushing production is actually very similar, except Bryson Daly scores 25 touchdowns to 13 touchdowns for Horvath. We you don't see a home field advantage one way or the other in these games because they always play them on an East Coast neutral field. But this just feels like Army's year. What they have been able, they have gone through the schedule. At this point, they are 10-1. If my prediction holds, they will be 11-1 going into this game. Navy's had a fantastic year at 8-3. But Army, Army is your team of destiny as far as this game goes. And Army will come away with the victory. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and or the show's Facebook page. You can read us on our Substack. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. And be sure to come back next week when we're not going to be here next week. The next week is Bowlapalooza.
Next week is Bowlapalooza.
Ooh.
That's right.
Something to keep in mind, boys and girls. Bowlapalooza is the next show. Either way, check back with us, see how wrong we were. It is time for final thoughts. I know I have one game still in mind. AJ, what are you going to be looking at for this weekend?
We got FCS playoffs, including 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Montana at South Dakota State. Big Sky Mount Missouri Valley Conference banger alert. Very excited for that.
We need like a sound effect for that. Banger alert, banger alert, banger alert.
We got Abilene Christian going to North Dakota State at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus, 9 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Lehigh, they of the throwing goalposts after a 4-mile walk into the river, going to the Kibbe Dome in Idaho.
Did they get that idea from Vandy? Do we know?
Oh yeah, but they went for a much longer walk off of a much higher bridge.
That is a hike, dude.
Yeah, so if you look at a map, where Lehigh plays football is on the other side of a ridge of the Appalachian Mountains, and they had to walk the goalpost 4 miles under I-78 up and over the hill.
That doesn't seem smart. That doesn't.
And the Lehigh chief of police, it's the Bethlehem chief of police because that's where Lehigh is.
Sure.
It's a Lafayette grad who was a hater and was like, it's an outrage, a danger in public safety. Screw you. Throw the goalpost. Do it again, kids.
Or maybe find a pond on campus that you don't have to walk 4 miles, because you guys are supposed to be smart, right?
Listen, walk it home unscrew the goalposts from the Kibbe Dome. They're mounted to the walls. Unscrew them from the wall and walk them all the way home. It's a very long walk. And don't do that. You will get very cold. The other thing we have, Crappy will mention a D3 game in particular. But we have Slippery Rock Cal U. That's a D2 quarterfinal game. That should be a banger.
Local banger.
Pittsburgh local banger. And we also have Harding going to Ferris State in the D2 championships quarterfinal. That should also be a banger. No TV for ESPN Plus will have the Slippery Rock Cal U game. TBD on the time there. But again, we're going to have some fun. If you're not into the big boy games, then there's the littler boy games, and then there's the D2, D3 games, which are all playoff games, and they should all be fantastic. Just keep an eye on ESPN Plus. Just start scrolling through. You'll find something. I promise.
Take a look at ESPN Plus. I will give you a reason why in just a second. Carla, what are your final thoughts?
My final thought is that we're starting to see bowl bids. We're starting to see bowl bids. And friends, I am excited to, if you haven't looked yet, to see that the Hawaii Bowl is back again in its rightful place on Christmas Eve. And guess who we get to see? San Jose State. San Jose State on Christmas Eve playing South Florida. That's one of the first bowl berths that has been actually solidified. That game's gonna be a lot of fun. So Merry Christmas to everybody. We get a really fun football game on Christmas Eve. But yeah, the fun is really kind of, the regular season is over, but the fun is kind of just beginning. We got a lot of football still to play, which is kind of fun to say at this point in the season. So yeah, hang on. It's gonna be a heck of a ride.
Okay.
Palooza is gonna be fun.
Okay. A recommendation for Indy that I would make for you, Sun King Brewing. Um,
Okay.
they had like a mini hot dog shop inside the main brewery, but the main brewery is fantastic. When we were there several years ago for a Jeff Tweedy show
Ooh, yeah.
at the Murat Auditorium, um, they had a lot of big beers on actually. The barrel aged stuff, Belgian styles. I obviously I don't know that's the case, but they also make a fantastic cream ale. Every time Kelly and I go to see a fish run at Deer Creek in suburban Indy, I look for a 6 pack of Sun King's cream ale because it is a perfect parking lot beer. And I think it would be an excellent beer to help you get in the right frame of mind for a college football game.
That sounds good. I will take that recommendation. I don't know how
Okay,
much time we're gonna have because we're
sure.
doing the trip real fast.
Mhm. No, that's
Yep.
fine. That's fine.
So we're going up Saturday. We're going up Saturday. The game's not until it's not it's an 8 o'clock Eastern kick. So
Mhm.
we're leaving Saturday
Mhm.
at like lunchtime to drive up there. Um, so we're
Okay.
gonna kind of just like slide in, slide out.
Get a four
Um,
pack and drink it in the car. No, wait, don't do that. Don't no that no
I'm not
no
driving.
that's
Park,
It's
bad.
fine.
That's bad.
park first. Park
Thank
first.
you. Yeah, AJ, you are exactly right. Um
This is not legal advice, but it's legal advice. All right.
by virtue of winning their second round game, and they had a bite out of the first round against the Pran Colonels last weekend, the Carnegie Mellon Tartans have earned the distinct pleasure of visiting whew, traditional D3 superpower Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio on Saturday. The last time the Purple Raiders did not win an Ohio Athletic Conference title was 2016. They are undefeated, and yes, they won the OAC again this year. Well, they haven't won a Natty, the D3 Natty, since 2017, but they've managed to win 13 of them recently. Recently, these two teams have not played since 1912. Excuse me. And the Raiders own a 2-0 record against the Tartans and outscored them heartily back in those days. Balanced offense and solid defense, and both of those have been hallmarks of Carnegie Mellon football this season. They can keep CMU in the game, and if it's close going into the fourth quarter, that's when the magic happens. Anything because anything can happen. There are no lines on this game. I would obviously pick Mountain Union as the favorite if I was going to be making a bet on this game. But again, CMU is good enough to keep this close, and if they keep it close late in the game, who knows? We will see. This will be my second screen at noon on Saturday. You will be able to see it on ESPN Plus if you are interested, and I hope you are. Boys and girls, we appreciate you joining us for Champinchip Week. AJ, thank you once again for putting together copious show notes, which I leaned on heavily this week. Carla, enjoy your
Yes.
trip. It is fantastic, and if there is a bright point in Ohio State's loss to Michigan last weekend, it is that I'm seeing a lot of my Penn State friends being very, very happy as they make plans to go to Indy. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad you guys get to go. That's going to be an awesome experience.
Yep. Thank you.
Boys and girls, thank you for watching, for listening, for reading, for doing all the things that you guys do for the show. I hope if you still have a team in the hunt, I hope your team does well this weekend. The team from Ann Arbor isn't playing. Sorry about that. Everybody, have a great college football weekend. Enjoy Champinchip Week, and we will see you back here next time. And it's coming. Bowlapalooza is the next show. Cheers, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. We will see you again soon.